Hello and welcome to Makers.dev episode number 58. Chris, happy January in the middle of it.
Yes, it is in the middle of January. How's it going?
It's going well. I just got in from having some sun. Very important health thing for me. If I get at least 2,000 IUs of vitamin D from sunlight every day, I feel better about everything and I'm able to get more stuff done, and problems that I had that seemed very scary seem much smaller. I think there's something to the Superman thing where he gets energy from the sunlight. I think all humans get energy from the sunlight, and if anyone out there is feeling bad right now, including you, future Christian, you should go out and get some sun. If it's too late to do it today, you want to aim to do it around solar noon, make sure you can do it tomorrow.
That's great advice. I will go outside in the 20-degree overcast weather around here and get some sun.
It's tough, right? I'm thinking of it doesn't get too cold here that often. So like, this morning I think it was something like 28 degrees, but now it's like 52 because it's Texas. But I kind of want to build like a little greenhouse outside or something. Like this is a problem that I have that I'd like to solve. I want to be able to spend time outside and get direct sunlight on my skin, but have a way to do it so that I'm not also freezing.
I think the greenhouse would block the UV rays, which actually produce the vitamin D.
That's correct, unless you only build a greenhouse around your four sides and have some sort of a heating mechanism. I've thought about this.
All right.
Have some kind of a heating mechanism on the inside. I'm thinking either they make like infrared heating panels that they put in some modern saunas. You could lay on one of those and have it from the side, or you could just have like a heating air fan inside this box. And as long as you don't have too much air getting into the top, but you do have direct exposure from the sunlight on top, I think that would work. That's the thing I'm going to build.
Just get a hot tub and then go outside.
I did it. Yeah. That's a really good idea. When I was at an apartment that had a hot tub, and that was my solution for the winter, and it was great. And it's so luxurious. You take your little afternoon hot tub, and you're doing it for health reasons. And yeah, it's a nice break in the day. I don't think I would like. I like the idea of a hot box a little bit better because I could fold it up and it'd be more portable. And a hot tub is kind of just involved. You gotta have water and a bunch of other stuff, and then that's the whole thing with water and chlorine. And I don't know that I want chlorine getting on my skin, but yes, that is a good idea.
Okay,
and it works.
All right, yeah,
cool. Anyway, how are you? What did you get up to this last week?
I am doing okay. I cleaned a lot of my house, including my office. You can't tell, but my office is a disaster because I dumped out all my things and I'm going through them. I'm going to get a new shelf with like bins for my photography equipment, which had been sprawling all over the place. And so that is what I'm doing. I'm also wiring everything up so there's not wires everywhere. So I did a lot of that this week.
From the view that I have, your office looks as immaculate as always. I think
it is designed to be that way.
That's good. It's clever. I think I show a little bit too much of my room in this view. I've got like a mess over here that I've had for weeks. I need to tidy that up, and these shelves need to get tidied up. For people listening audio only, probably very confused, but Chris's background looks immaculate and like he's in a design studio, and mine looks like I'm in a messy room. That's that's good. Tidying up. That always feels very cathartic for me. Do you do any? Do you have a system for it? What's your method for tidying up?
Not really. We've done the Marie Kondo thing before, but this is more like I know what is a mess, and so I take it all. I have this habit of if things are messes, I put them in boxes or bins, and then so the pile of bins has gotten 3 high, and so I dumped everything out of the bins, and then realized a lot of the mess is wires, like wires to chargers and wires to rechargeable battery things and everything. So I have done some online IKEA shopping and figured out what kind of bins and everything I need to put the wires where they need to go.
Wire messes I've struggled with my entire life. I don't know what a good solution for that is. Have you? What did you get from IKEA? Do they have a magical wire organizing?
No, it's a shelf that has enough bins that I know will fit the wires, and then I can label it. We have a label maker, right? And so label. Yeah,
label makers are key. My current solution to that is I got a tackle box for so it's a box with a bunch of smaller boxes inside of it. I don't know if it's a tackle box or a jewelry organizing box or something. So for cables that I don't have very many of, like micro USB cables. I have stopped needing those, so I just keep like 3 or 4 of them around. So I'll wrap those up and kind of wrap it in on itself so it stays together, and then put those in the one box of micro USB. And that works for like 90% of the types of cables that I have. And then USB to USB-C, I've got just like a huge bag of, and I find I need those the most frequently of anything else. Also USB-C to USB-C. So those I put in a clear Ziploc bag and have that in my clear plastic, both of those, the tackle box and the plastic bags I have just in my clear plastic bin of electronic stuff. And I still don't love that, because like the time it takes me to go and, if I know exactly what the cable is I need, okay, I know it's in this tackle box, but I still find myself looking through 8 boxes to find the one box that I actually need, and I feel like they could be faster.
Yeah, one thing I have done for those little cables, these are mostly big cables, but like for those little cables, you take toilet paper rolls and you put them all next to each other, and then you roll up the cord so that the ends are facing up, and you stick it in the toilet paper roll, and then you can just open up the box and you can look at all the ends, and then you can pick out the end that you need.
That's interesting. Is it one cable per toilet paper roll?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, because then the ends are all I care about. Huh.
So that has worked pretty well for like USB cables and stuff.
A toilet paper roll I feel like is way too big for a cable. Or do you like cut the toilet paper roll in half?
No, I mean it's what, I don't know, 3 inches, 4 inches long or something. And when you wind up even like a 3-foot cable, like a short cable, it basically fills most of the roll.
Okay, interesting. I'd like to experiment with that. Yeah, because that I could see being much faster. Of like if I just have a box and I open the box, the box is a clear plastic top and the box is the same height as the toilet paper roll. Now I open the box and then I could have the cables. So each cable has its own toilet paper roll, and then I could have the toilet paper rolls in sections. So now I can just open the box and see, that's the one, because I'm doing pattern recognition on what the ends are supposed to be, and then I grab that one. Okay, yeah, I like that.
Yeah. 2 things I like for this too, for like office stuff and then organizing in general. So Adam Savage, he has the YouTube channel called Tested, and this is more like when he's working in a shop, but he has 2 different principles he organizes things by. One is first order retrievability, which means if you have to open a drawer for something, then that thing's going to be lost forever. And so like you need to be able to, now this is for when you're working with it all the time, but like you need to be able to see it and grab it and work with it. And so that's not quite the same for this, because things are going to be in drawers, but like you need to be able to open a drawer, and if you have to dig in that drawer, then those things are just lost. That's like my bins, right? If I have to dig through the bin, the thing's just lost. And then the other thing he says is, if you're struggling with where to put something, don't try to be clever. Just stop and think, if I had to find this thing right now, where would I go to get it? And then just put it there. And don't think too hard about it, because in 6 months when you're looking for that thing, you're going to go back to that whatever spot you picked. So those are the 2 things that, like when I organize my garage workshop, I do in a little bit with the office. Yeah,
I like that. The first order retrievability is interesting. That sounds like it's saying not to put things in bins.
Yeah, he hates really bins hard. And he hates drawers. But if you do have to put things in bins and drawers, then make it so you don't dig for it. So that's why the toilet paper rolls, like if they all line things up, and so you can just reach in and grab it without moving a whole bunch of other stuff around.
Yeah. Interesting. I could be moving more in that direction. My current storage solution, I'm the happiest with that I've ever been with any other storage solution. Of like, I have categories of things, and each category is one clear plastic bin. So I'll have like camping is one bin, and then all of my camping stuff goes in there. It's like a I think it's called a hash map, or a you take the hash of a thing and then you put it in a bucket, and then the most of the operations on it are like log n, I think, and then within that bin it is just in order or something. So whenever I'm looking for something, I've had, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 dozen instances of like thinking of a really esoteric thing that I haven't used in the last year, but I know what major category it would be in. So I'm able to go exactly to the bin that it's in, and then within that bin, I've got to root around a little bit for where that thing is. But I've found it, I've had cache hits, 90% of the time.
Right.
I like the analogy. Like a lot of the queuing and like list computer science topics, I feel like map really well here. Like sorting and because it's the same problems of like, what's the cost to insert something, what's the cost to find something,
right.
What's the cost to delete something. Like I just want to I want a hash map of all my stuff. Interesting. Maybe what I want is like a little miniature Amazon warehouse where I just type in the name of the thing I want, and then little robots go and find the bin that it's in, and then like pluck out the one thing and then deliver it to me on a conveyor belt. That would be ideal.
Yeah, well, when you get your $1 billion, you can...
I could do that for less than $1 billion.
Sure.
Cool. Any other insights in tidying up your office?
Oh, no, that's all I did for tidying. It's a mess now. When I go to IKEA and get my shelf, then I'll be able to put the things that I have sorted away, and that will feel better. So
sounds good. You've reminded me that I'm due to go through each of my bins, and I'd like some kind of a system to clean them out. I really like the Marie Kondo exercise of shifting from like looking at all your stuff and saying, what can I get rid of, which is sort of my natural process, to like, let me dump everything out, and I'm looking at all the stuff, and by default I'm going to get rid of it. I'm either going to give it away or I'm going to throw it away or whatever. And I'm just picking from this the things that I want to keep. I'm picking from this the things that spark joy, because there's this huge category of stuff in the middle of this gray zone that I sort of feel indifferent about, that when I force myself to default to, I'm going to throw all this away, it makes it much easier to make the decisions of like, well, this thing that I feel indifferent about, it's not something I want to keep. It's not something I feel strongly about. So yeah, sure, I'll just let that go away. I end up in the Marie Kondo method with fewer things, and all of the things are things that I've actively made a choice that I want, as opposed to just like things that I feel indifferent about. So I'd like a more regular process for going through and forcing myself to go through the bins and do that filtering on them.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's probably something I have to get better at, especially with my office stuff anyway. But it gets tricky with kid stuff too, because as soon as you get rid of something that a kid wants, then they will ask for it. That's the rule about kid stuff. So yeah, we have I hope my kids don't listen to this. They won't, but we have a two-phase removal process for getting rid of stuff that the kids want. We take stuff that we think they don't play with anymore, and we'll put it in a box and put the box in a special spot. And then if they don't ask for it in like 6 months or a year, we get rid of it. Yeah, at least it's out of the way, But if they do ask for it, we're like, oh, let me go find that.
Yeah.
And that has saved us a few times.
That's smart. That's good. Yeah, and then if it's been a year, like, you're probably not going to want it.
Yeah, they don't even remember. Yeah,
that's good. I like that. Ideally, like, you're a parent. You've had much more experience in this, so I'm just kind of shooting from the hip. But I would love to get to the point where, like, my kids have internalized the same sort of systems. Like, they're taking ownership of, maybe we go through together this Marie Kondo process, and like I'm walking them through the same sort of process that I do. But I think that'd be challenging.
Yeah, we have done that too. So Christmas just came and went, and before that we were like, you have a certain amount of space in your room. If you get stuff for Christmas, you won't be able to fit it. So let's get rid of some old stuff. And so we did go through the process of like, you don't play with this anymore. You're going to get some new stuff. So why don't you get rid of this to make room for that? And that works too. I was just talking about like when we want to sneakily get rid of something.
Yeah. I feel that. Cool. You have been working on a Kaggle composition for the last few weeks. I heard a rumor that is wrapped up. What's the status? What happened?
Yeah, so this was like on Monday. So the contest ended on Friday. On Monday, I almost had rage quit the contest because I was doing poorly and nothing was really working. And I wanted to do AcornChat, which we had talked about for a few weeks. So I was good. I was just going to quit. And I thought, no, I will stick it out and like actually do some more things that I think are going to work. And I ended up, out of almost 4,000 teams, I ended up in 194th place, which is like top 6%.
Out of 4,000? My gosh, yeah. That's great.
Not awesome, but top 6%. It's not bad. If I would have quit on Monday, I would have been like top 25, 30%.
That's a huge jump. Fantastic.
Yeah, so I jumped a lot. Part of the reason I was feeling so bad, and part of the reason I was down on the competition last week, was because the public leaderboard and the private leaderboard. So to remind people, as you're going through the competition, you get ranked on what's called the public leaderboard, which is a certain test set. You can't see the test set. Your code just runs against it. And then you get a score, and you get ranked on that score. And at the end of the competition, everyone gets re-ranked on a private test set that no one has, like, that no code has been run on before. And so it's public leaderboard, private leaderboard. And the distributions were slightly different. And so I was actually doing kind of bad on the public leaderboard, but it turns out I was doing pretty good on the private one. So I jumped 700 and something places so I thought I was doing sort of poorly, and I ended up jumping 700 places. So and a bunch of people fell like 500-600 places. So that's part of the reason I was not feeling great about it. It turns out I was doing pretty well. I just didn't know it. And so I trusted the process and ended up doing okay. But yep,
that's great.
Done. Yeah.
Well done. Several follow-up questions. First of all, I love that mechanism. That's something we talked before of having the secret data set that they're testing on, because an obvious way to game the system is just to overfit to the test data. And then you have something that scores very well, but that's useless when you're actually using it. So I like that a lot. I'm curious if the mechanism of that, we may have talked about this before, but I'm having trouble remembering. How do they test your code against their secret data set? Are you sending in your code, or are you sending in your model and they run the model, or are they sending you the new test data set and you tell them just like the categorization?
Yeah, so it works a couple different ways. Previously, so like a year or two ago, they would either send the test set out and you have to rescore it in a certain number of days, or you just get access to the test set from the beginning and you have to send in just the submission file. But recently that's been changing. So once Kaggle got bought by Google, they're owned by Google, by the way. They have lots of competition, or they resources. So, Google Colab basically runs as Kaggle kernels, is called. And so, you actually submit your code. So you create something called a kernel, which runs top to bottom. And basically, at test time, they fill a directory with test data. And then your kernel has access to that data. So you never see it, but your code will.
That is so cool.
Yeah, so that's how I do it. Yeah.
Amazing. You just send it in, you make a little brain. You send in your brain to Google, and then they have your brain make a bunch of decisions, let you know what your little child did. Cool. Yeah, that's a good system, and then that seems like it would be robust against people gaming the system, unless they did something really clever where, like, if you built into your model that it made an HTTP request, and then like you could manually categorize the data somewhere else, or have people try that?
So they turn internet off.
Okay.
So that's the biggest way. Some people have tried things like, so you see, how long your model ran for, and that's the only information you get out. So per submission, you get basically one bit of information out, which is how much your model ran for.
Yeah.
So people have tried in the past things like putting sleeps in their code so that it runs for a certain amount of time based on something or other. Since Google has all your code, and so they can then, I would hope that they try to sort of, do some code analytics or something to try to figure out if people are trying to do that, because that's against the rules. You're not supposed to try to get out any information about the test set. So
how funny that, if theoretically if you had infinite submissions just with this one bit of information, like, you could have access to the whole data set. It would just take you a really long time. you could just tell it to run for, start at the first bit of input data. that's how long you sleep for. And then the second time you run, give me the second bit. Oh, that's so funny. Hope so.
And the other way they do it is they limit submissions. So most have 5 submissions a day. This last one only had 2 a day, and I'm not 100% sure why. But yeah. Yep.
Okay. That's great. You're following the process. It's congratulations on scoring so well. My next question. This is. Sounds like from our conversations about this problem in particular that it felt like it was sort of futile, that because you had such wild variation even in identical images in the same test set, that it felt sort of like, you're going to end up overfitting anyway. There's not enough information to solve this adequately. I found myself being a little surprised that you devoted this much energy to it when it sounded like you had sort of resolved yourself to that this isn't a solvable problem. How are you framing that?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I don't know.
Okay.
It's an interesting part of my that. I almost didn't. I almost just said, this is not really solvable, and so I almost quit, because the top maybe say 20% of people more or less had the same solution. They use different models and a few different tricks and stuff. And the tricks are what made the gold medal tier do well, but. Mostly, if you're running this in production, the top 20% of teams or so had basically the same solution.
Okay.
So I don't know. What do you think? What's your analysis of why I would some of it's sunk cost fallacy. I'd already spent all this time on it. I might as well spend a little more time to get a better rank or whatever, even though rank doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I also don't know. That's how I wasn't prepared for you to throw that back at me.
I did learn more. So
Okay.
I thought I had stopped learning, and part of my whole reason for doing this, most of the reason is just learn new things.
Okay.
And I got to a point where I was like, I've learned all I can from this competition.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if I had read a discussion post or something, and I didn't understand part of it, and so I was like, well, at least I can work on that, and I will learn about that. And so I learned about that, and I worked on that, and so I did learn some more in the final, few days of the competition. So that's probably why I kept going.
Okay, that's fair. This is the sort of game that we talk about where like you can't lose. Like,
right.
Even if you're working towards a problem that can't be solved, you had the breakthrough in the last hour of figuring out how you could push forward from the 25th percentile to the 4th percentile. So you've learned more about AI and ML and how to solve this type of problem in the future. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Can you talk about in a way that I want to understand the changes that you made at the end, or you want to keep that your secret sauce for future competitions?
One thing I did was swapped models. So I was using one particular model, and actually in the middle of the competition, so like 2 weeks ago, Facebook released a new model, a new vision model, which was different, and so. I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but it is a revision of an old model. So they kind of used an old model and trained it in a different way so that it achieves state-of-the-art results.
Cool.
And so I basically used that model, and that model was showing some promise over the other model that I had.
Cool.
And then the other thing was one of the things I realized. So the data wasn't distributed normally. It was kind of skewed to one side. And one thing I realized was that the public leaderboard, people getting good scores on the public leaderboard actually was probably an indication that they were doing more poorly on the private leaderboard compared to a certain cross-validation scheme. Because my theory was they randomly selected the public and private leaderboard together, and then they randomly split off the public leaderboard scores. And if they did that, then doing slightly better on the public leaderboard would actually lower your score on the private leaderboard. I don't know if this is getting too in the weeds. Anyway.
Hold on, I've lost you. There's the private leaderboard, which is that's your final score.
I'll explain it like this. So it was split up into dogs and cats, right? So there are dogs and cats in the data set. Dogs were harder to predict than cats. So say they selected 1,000 dogs and 1,000 cats for the test set, and then they divided that randomly into public and private leaderboards. If you're doing better on the public leaderboard compared to your cross-validation, then that might just be because there's more cats in the public leaderboard and more dogs in the private leaderboard. Like say if they split it up equally and then divided. And that was my guess. So what I started doing was much more rigorously comparing my cross-validation to the public leaderboard, and I actually picked the two answers which correlated better. Like they had a slightly worse public leaderboard score, but my guess was it correlated better to the private leaderboard. So these are the kind of tricks that you do in Kaggle that don't matter at all for real world.
Okay. It sounds like you're just gaming Kaggle
exactly.
of you're reverse engineering the way that they would be picking their public test set.
Yeah,
okay.
And so that boosted me probably 50 places in the end, just doing it that way. But the rest of it was this other model, which I learned all about. So yeah,
cool. Neat. Well, congratulations on scoring well. That's cool. Is there another Kaggle competition lined up?
There are. I start my next class tomorrow, though, so we'll see how much time I have. Plus, if I want to do any work at all, that eats up a lot of time. But the next one I had started was a natural language processing one, which I haven't done much of, and so I've already learned a bunch with that, and so that's neat. It is the next one that I might do is they took essays written by 6th to 12th graders, and they want to. It's by Georgia State University, and they want to provide like an open source. Their goal is to create like an open source. Essay feedback tool for these grades, and the first part of that is to just identify different parts of the essay. And so like this is a lead, this is a conclusion, these are claims, this is a rebuttal, this is a whatever. And so they had a bunch of human annotators go and annotate like 15,000 essays with all these different parts of the essay, and now they want to build a machine learning model to do it. And then presumably like you submit your, as a 6th grader, you would submit your thing and it would be like, maybe you should have more than one claim in your essay or whatever.
Amazing. That's cool.
So
how interesting. Having a robot essay grader that could give you like
Yeah.
Actually, what an interesting problem.
Yeah, there's actually been a lot of robot essay grading like papers and stuff published. So this isn't grading necessarily, but it's more like analysis of essays. But yeah.
Offering directed feedback on
Right.
things that could be improved. Okay, I like that a lot. The goal, I think, of the dog and cat photo thing was something similar, that like you could offer suggestions of maybe if you improve the lighting of this photo, it could be a better dog photo or something. And then based on the data, it ended up being like, if you make this dog more of a cat, that would improve it. But does it seem so far with how far you've dug into it that you would be able to say things like, maybe offer more evidence for the claims that you're making?
Yeah, so they actually gave information about how it was human annotated, and the human annotators. So they had volunteer human annotators and like professional ones, and the volunteer human annotators got an inter agreement score of 0.73 out of 1, and the current top model on Kaggle is getting 0.7. So it is currently doing about as well as a volunteer annotator. So if it gets above 0.73, it will be doing better than volunteers, more like the professionals. So
that's amazing. What an interesting period of time that we're living in. We're like, it's I'm reminded of like when computers first started playing chess. There was this really interesting period where like humans and computers are sort of trading off, and then it was like, oh, the best teams are humans and computers at the same time that are playing together. Now on chess, it's just like, no human can beat a computer. The chess engine on your cell phone is better than the world's best human. And we're still in this really interesting place with most of these problems of like, for grading an essay and offering directed feedback, like we're still kind of trading off. Like it's still this interesting place where humans are still holding their own and computers are learning how to get up there. Man, how cool to like be seeing this happening, boots on the ground, like computers just learning how to solve these problems, one problem after another. There was a problem we talked about of the crypto trading that we only talked about once, and I think you didn't work on it again. Is that right?
Yeah, I haven't because like we mentioned during the crypto one that it's basically a gamble, and so you basically have to write a whole software bot and then submit it. So like how much time do I want to spend on a gamble? And so that's been my analysis of that so far. Yeah, so I haven't gone back and looked at it. It still has like 3 weeks left or something, but I might do something simple and submit it. But I haven't spent a lot of time on that one.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm reading more Nassim Taleb books of like the Black Swan and the Fooled by Randomness and things, and he's just so critical against that type of game.
Yeah.
So it's left a taste in my mouth of like, okay, this. Yes, I might be able to have some edge here, but like I just don't want to become that person. Yeah, okay, makes sense.
At the same time, it's free to enter, and so you can go to Kaggle and you can see it and sign up and see all the data, and you don't have to use AI to do it. You could just use some simple algorithm. And
I might do that and just like be completely random and just see how it does. Like,
yeah, sure.
Math.rand, and if it's over 5, buy, and if it's less than that, sell, and see how that does. Yeah, that'd be interesting. It has to be in Python. Is that right?
Yeah,
it's on PyTorch.
Python.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll learn a little bit more Python for that. That makes sense. I would love to ask about AcornChat and this getting it on the Slack App Store. What's the current status of that, and what ground would you like to make in this next week?
Yeah, I did nothing again.
Fair.
Part of it was the Kaggle competition, so I was going to stop the Kaggle competition on Monday, but I ended up going till Friday, which is the day it ended. And then I cleaned my house, and so that is what I did instead. Like we talked about last time, it's like something I want to do it for sure, and it's important to me, but it's also something that has no deadline, and other than you, has no one asking about it.
Yeah.
And so I can ignore it, and I'll feel bad about ignoring it, but there's no consequences. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I want consequences. It might just be something that I continue to ignore. I got a lot of work done this week, on my house and stuff. So yeah, and I don't know how I feel. The other excuse I'll give is that I still feel like it's vacation mode a little bit because school starts up tomorrow. And so, yeah, I don't know. I still want to do it, but I have not done anything.
I'm especially interested in this because I I have this sort of relationship to projects all the time, and it's very frustrating at times. Like, this serverless file inbox thing. My God, I've been talking about this since we started this podcast, and it's still not done. I resent myself a little bit for that. Of like, I don't know yet what the external framework is that I can be imposing on myself so that I can get this project done. And like you said, there's value in the productive procrastination created by having some bigger thing that we know we need to get done. Yeah, I'm sure if you set out in the beginning of this week, like, oh yeah, the most important thing I need to do this week is clean my house. Like, no way that would have gotten done,
right?
But you would have gotten something else done. So yeah, I'm curious to push on this a little bit of like, this is a thing that you want to get done, that you've wanted to do for a while, that when we broke it down, it seemed like it was manageable steps to walk towards this goal of getting it in the Slack App Store. How would you like the world to be different? What would you like to happen this next week that didn't happen last week?
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe instead of, so I had the thought when you were saying that instead of working on it directly, maybe my goal next week will just be, so I've done in the past this thing called Morning Pages. It's from a book called The Artist's Way, and it's where you write out, like, they recommend 3 pages longhand, and it can be about anything, but the way I found it really helpful is like directed at something. So when I first started, I did about anything, and that helps. It's more like a meditation at that point. But I've also found it really helpful for like specific decisions or like clarifying your thinking about something. Yeah. So maybe just a few sessions of 3-page longhand writing out about it. I think that will that could really help clarify what I'm actually thinking about it. So maybe that I feel confident that I could complete that goal. Yeah.
That resonates with me. I've found the same sort of thing. I found out about the Morning Pages a couple of years ago and adapted it for myself to transcribe me talking to myself like a lunatic while out on morning walks by myself. Yeah. I've got my AirPods in, so I like to fantasize that people who see me are just like, oh, clearly he's talking on the phone with someone. But no, I'm just talking to myself. And that's been really useful, especially when I direct it towards a project. Also just generally useful of like, if there's a blog post I'm trying to get out, or like if there's a thing bothering me in my life, and just talking about it helps me get to a resolution. But on mornings where it is directed at a project where I'm like, okay, what's the thing on File Inbox that I need to do next? Like, why am I stuck? And if I were going to work on this, what would the plan be? That does feel like a way to unblock being blocked of like, after 40 minutes of just talking about it, and I have the whole thing laid out of like, if I was going to work on this, these are the next 10 things I would do. It feels like now that has created a lot of negative pressure of I now walk into my house, and then I, of course, immediately go into that because that's the thing I've been thinking about for the last 40 minutes. Yeah, I like that. I've never formalized that, though, as a way to get unstuck on projects. It's just sort of happened accidentally. So I like the way you framed that as I can direct that Morning Pages thinking towards a thing that I want to be moving more in the direction of, and then that now more of my attention is pointed in that direction. So that's the way I'm going to move. Yeah, cool. Okay. Sounds like for this next week, then you want to do some Morning Pages, just like about AcornChat in general.
Yep. I can commit to that.
I like it. I'm going to do the same thing for File Inbox serverless stuff.
Cool.
Neat. I have some very exciting news for this next week. I saw you look up as if you were hearing a child.
I hear a kid yelling.
Yes. That's no. I think
is
that's
that you?
Mine.
Okay.
Not my child. That's my nephew Jack. Yes. So sorry, listeners, if you're freaking out. There's a child who's not very happy in my space right now, and I don't even know how I'd edit that out. It's fine.
Don't bother.
Just put up with it, listeners. Babies cry in the world sometimes. That's the thing that happens. Okay, I pushed forward my executive assistant. I have an executive assistant now. Woo! I talked with her. It was great. Her name is Rachel, and she's very helpful. And I had my first call with her last week, and I was so anxious. Like, my palms were sweaty, and I had all this imposter syndrome of like, who am I to be directing this other person to be doing work for me? But it's great. Just like it's created this negative pressure now of anything involving customer support. I have a person for that now, and I'm building up a queue of, okay, after she's solved this problem for me, here are some other things she can be doing for me. And man, I love it. There was a moment in particular on the call that I just felt great about. I was saying something about like, oh man, I feel terrible about this email, and I feel really uncomfortable writing responses to it. And she was like, oh, I love this. Like I've been doing customer support for a while, and I was like, really? You do? Oh, where have you been? Why haven't I done this earlier? So that's great. I have another call with her tomorrow. On call number 1, I just got her set up of like Groove is my system for doing this, and I logged into my customer support email for the first time in a year and saw that there were only 800 emails, which is less than I thought there would be. It's like an average of, I don't know, 1.5 a day or something. Yeah. Totally manageable. And, a lot of those are spam and just things that I haven't seen. And a lot of them are just people asking for refunds. And I feel like such a scumbag of like, I'm sorry. I don't know why I haven't responded to your email, but I have a person for it now. And I'm trying my best to get that to be better. I have had a few people like break through this firewall though, and like reach out to me on Twitter, and for those problems, I've been able to solve it for them. And some people have called me. I have like my phone number on the bill, so like I don't feel like atrocious about it, because I feel like the people who like really needed to get stuff done, they were able to get it done. But yeah, it still feels bad. But it's getting fixed, and I feel good about that. In the process of doing that, I have 2 very good excuses for why I didn't get any of the tools that you assigned me done. The first was, so I think last time we talked about how I had updated File Inbox like up to the deadline right before the first of this year, so that it supported the new OAuth system for Dropbox. And as part of doing that, some sort of gem compatibility thing, and like deploying it at some point in that, I was like, okay, well, I better upgrade to Rails 6, and also I have to upgrade this gem for Dropbox. And let me just recompile all the gems. Okay, let me test that like I can still sign up for an account and I can still send a file. Oh, okay, that looks pretty good. Let me ship it. Phew. All right, we can move on to something else now. And fast forward a week ago, January, I don't know, 10th or 11th-ish, and I'm trying to walk Rachel through the settings page on one of the pages, because I'm like, oh, this customer just asked for this thing. You don't know what my product is yet, so let me show you like how he would do this thing. So I'm walking her through, and I'm like, okay, change this thing, and you should be seeing a save button at the bottom of the page. And she's like, nope. And I'm like, that might be broken. Anyway, on to the next thing. And so I scramble after the call to be like, was that just her computer? Was there like a browser incompatibility issue? So I go to it on my computer, and I'm like, nope, that sure is broken. And I don't know why it was broken. It had something to do with the transition component. I had this clever little animation where the save button would like bounce up from the bottom of the screen, and getting rid of that and just having like, if this component should be shown, show it, and if not, hide it. So I switched to that, and then it worked, and then I pushed it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's been like that for 10 days. No one's been able to update their page settings. I understand why MRR has gone down. It went down like surprisingly, like more than it should be. Okay, well, now that that's fixed, we should be good to go. And then I had one of the emails that came in. How did I get prompted on this? Actually, I don't remember. Something happened where it brought up the same sort of an issue, but with billing. And I think it was someone trying to change their plan, or someone trying to downgrade. Oh no, it was someone who DM'd me on Twitter, and they were like, hey, I'm trying to buy your thing, but I can't. When I try to buy your thing, it says this error, that's some Rails error of like, you can't update this attribute or something. And I was like, oh no, I'm so sorry about that. Let me try to fix that for you. So I log in, and of course, billing's broken also. And apparently when I updated the Dropbox API, because I hadn't froze the Stripe gem at a specific version, it was like, well, the Dropbox API needs this version of Faraday. I don't know what Faraday is, but my God, it's caused me so many problems. We have to update the most recent version of Stripe that supports that Faraday. And that is this other version of Stripe that is more recent than the 6-year-old version of the Stripe gem that you've been using. And of course, they handle the concept of a payment in a completely different way. You treat it like as a list of subscriptions as opposed to just one subscription that you can have. So I had to go through all of my billing stuff, and as part of that, I was like, can I just downgrade the gem? No, I can't, because now that's incompatible. My gosh. But I was able to fix that after many hours of work. So I feel like I spent my time on File Inbox this last week in the way that would raise MRR the most, which is fixing billing so that people can actually pay me money. So that's why I didn't work on marketing stuff, and also has reaffirmed that, like, man, I have to get off this code base. This is a sinking ship, and I gotta transition over just as soon as I can. Yeah, that's how that went.
I will accept your excuse for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean that sucks when something's broken and you don't know. Two things broken, I guess. Yeah, that'll teach you to do something clever like animations or upgrading Rails. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't. There's no. I was gonna say there's no great answer for that kind of thing. I guess tests are the answer, but yeah.
Full like end-to-end integration tests, I think, are something I'm going to be prioritizing for the serverless thing. I'm not quite sure how to do that on Vercel. What I'd like to do is like deploy to my testing app first, and then have all my integration tests run on that, and have those be complicated of like just a person interacting with the browser and dragging and dropping a file in and stuff, and then only if that passed, push to the main branch. But that's a thing I need to look into.
Yeah, my guess is if you Google continuous integration Vercel, then you could find lots of blog posts about it, probably. So
cool. I'll dig that up. One other thing that came to mind is in billing, I'm really excited to move my billing system over to the Stripe integration with Firebase, because they have a first-class integration of like, here's the standard way to do this with Firebase, and we update your models for you and keep everything in sync. And then also move my entire billing page over to Stripe's hosted billing page, because
Stripe
now
checkout.
I just because now I just never have to think about that again. Have you played with that? Have you done anything with their checkout page?
Yeah, I've done. I think almost all the Stripe stuff I've done has been checkout, because it's so much easier than, like, I've done it before in the old way, and yeah, Stripe checkout's so much easier. They used to like not support everything, but now I think they support most everything. Like, you can even do metered billing and all that stuff with checkout. So
love it.
Yeah, it's way easier. You don't have to ever write a change credit card form again. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. What a fantastic product. Thank you, Stripe. You know exactly what I need. Yeah, so like moving the infrastructure so that like I'm just hiring Stripe to handle all of it. And Stripe, you just tell me, what plan this person subscribed to and whether or not they're active, and I'll just handle requests that you send me, and you handle all the rest of it, and then send me money. Yeah, that's the situation I want to be in, and sort of like that's the philosophy that I'm trying to move towards, right? Of like, I don't want to think about hosting ever again. I don't want to think about servers. I just want to send Google my code, and you run it for me. And if it has to run more, scale it up for me. It seems like it's never been easier to be a solopreneur and just like hire companies to be handling these problems for me. I'm really excited to move this infrastructure over.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, billing is like, people who know how to do development, one of the big things that they're scared of is billing. And Stripe checkout is the thing to look at if you're scared of billing. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm excited to integrate it. I have two more things, including a dude, where's my segment?
Yeah.
We'll leave that till the end.
Wonderful.
Yes. I think I may have solved the humidity problem, and I did it with an evaporative humidifier. It's this whole house humidifier. All the humidifiers I've had up to this point have been ultrasonic. You have like a little speaker in a pool of water, and it vibrates and makes little micro particles of water come up, and then those evaporate really quickly. I found another type of humidifier from this YouTube video where it's like a wick that goes in the water, and you set it just in this huge bucket of water, and then it runs air through it, and then it's immediately evaporative, and it can work in an entire house. So it's taken a while and a bunch of weird creative solutions, like misting a spray bottle in the room, but I think I finally figured that out. And as part of that, I felt inspired to like write down all of this stuff on air that I've been thinking about. So I wrote my first blog post in a while at gen.co/air that talks about all of the air stuff that I've been thinking about, and the problems I had at each step and how I solved them. Excuse me.
Yeah. That's awesome. I just pulled it up. I need to read that. We have a humidifier in our room, and it just died. It was an ultrasonic one, and I I was looking for a new one on Amazon, and I read a review that talked about how ultrasonic humidifiers can potentially, if you have hard water, it can like aerosolize the minerals in the hard water. So I need to read more on that because that didn't sound good.
Yeah, if you're not using filtered water in an ultrasonic humidifier, all of the little particles and chlorine and minerals and stuff, because it's microparticles of air of water that are going into the air, that's taking with it all of that dust and dirt. So what I found was if I'm not using filtered water with those humidifiers, the PM 2.5, the dust in the air, shoots way up. So like, yes, the humidity does go up, but like it's almost not worth the PM 2.5 going up. And then sometimes, depending on the water, I still haven't quite figured this out, the VOCs also go up. That's still something I'm trying to figure out. But yeah, I think the promise of evaporative humidifiers is because it's just the water going straight to that it's in the air. The sediment stays in the bucket of water.
Yeah, that's what this post said too. Now, it was a random Amazon comment, and so I took it with a huge grain of salt. But yeah, it said that evaporative humidifiers don't have the problem. So it referenced papers that did it. So I was going to read those papers and try to figure out exactly what they said. I will report back if I do that. But yeah, I didn't buy another ultrasonic mister because I want to read those before I buy something. Yeah,
cool. Yeah, I think evaporative is the way to go, and I have a link in my gen.co/air blog post for the specific one that I recommend. Cool. I think that's that. Last segment. Dude, where's my heart? It was stolen by my cousins coming with their kids. I spent a bunch of time with them, and
yes, that's a good dude. Where's my?
Yeah, it is.
All right,
they're just adorable. It was a lot of fun hanging out with them. Got to go to a petting zoo, and like the sorts of places are just so much more interesting with kids. Like I was at a park, and George, my cousin's son, who's I think 4, pointed to a tree and was like, "There's an ant there," and I was like, first of all, like, of course, we're outside, but then the more overwhelming feeling was like, yes, little child, there is an ant there. Welcome to the world. It is beautiful and lush and full of life. And yes, you've identified an ant. And what can you tell me about that ant? And what are you seeing? And man, it just made for such a more rich experience. I had reaffirmed that like I'm really looking forward to having kids. Kids are really cool.
Yeah. I mean, having kids is great in the ways that you just pointed out. It can also be awful. Like, I don't want to downplay that.
Yeah.
But and so. But yeah, generally it's great watching kids like experience the world. It's cool.
I've had an ongoing conversation with my college roommate Luke, who about kids, and he's pretty firmly in the camp of not wanting kids, and references things like the happiness and life satisfaction and relationship satisfaction studies that say after having kids, all of those metrics go down, and probably, and also like. It seems like the thing that gets increased is meaning and purpose, and like kids seem worth the sacrifice. That like if I could choose to be less happy and do something really meaningful that's worth that sacrifice of just hedonistically like catering to my every whim, I would like to do that. There's a quote by I think it's Jordan Peterson that talks about if you don't have kids. What the hell else are you going to do after you're 60? And I like that because it's very rare that I think people continue to get satisfaction from their career or their friends after you're that age. And like, yeah, I think that's a really good reason to have kids. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we talked last week about like wishing to live 2 lives, and so yeah, I wish I could live a life without kids and one with kids, and like experience both things because I think like. I love my kids, and I am glad that I had them. But I understand people who don't want them because they definitely it's a sacrifice in a lot of ways. So yeah, I am thankful for the experience I have. I wish I could experience both, but I can't. So I chose the one I wanted more. So yeah,
we need It's a Wonderful Life situation where you can see what the ultimate reality would be. Oh, there's a musical also about this concept called If Then. Beautiful. At one point in the musical, they split this woman's life. Idina Menzel, who also voiced Elsa in Frozen, played this role originally, and she has this trivial decision of like, do I go to lunch with this friend or do I go to lunch with this other friend? And then from that moment they split, and you get to follow her two realities of how it ended up, and children are involved. And it was really interesting watching the musical of like, depending on the moment, it was kind of random which one had the better life. And it seemed at first like, oh man, this was clearly the better decision, because look at how much better this happened. But then that thing ended up in a huge tragedy, and timeline B was much further ahead. But then it flip-flopped like a few more times. But specifically with kids, like, I know so many more old people who have had families and are content and like have a support network then I know people who did not have kids and have their life together in the same sort of way. And I sure do know a whole bunch of elderly people who just kind of lived the single life for as long as they could, and now are just in these terrible situations of like, even the ones who did relatively well with money, seems like a very lonely existence of there's only so many things you can buy to like give you life satisfaction that I think humans need to do hard things, to sacrifice their own happiness for other people to be able to live a meaningful and fulfilled life.
Yeah. Not to end on a down note or anything, but I do know, so like one of my friends, they decided not to have kids, not necessarily because they didn't want them, although they didn't, but both of their families have huge histories of very severe mental illness, and they don't have it, thankfully, but it's all genetic. And so like if they had a kid, there's a really good chance that it would have, bipolar disorder or I don't know exactly what the specifics are, but so they decided not to because they didn't want to, and there's a really good chance that it could really, really, like if you have a kid with a chronic illness, like it can be just life draining. And so I mean, there is that risk. You get a chronic illness or some kind of chronic problem, and you get sort of a life sucking experience. Not to put a downer on things, but kids are great. What do I know?
Yeah, for sure. That'd be really challenging. That's something I'm fearful of like, if I have a child and he ends up having a terrible disorder, emotionally or physically or mentally or something, like, man, that would be a challenge. That would be very difficult. And I think it's worth the risk. And I hope I'm never looking back on this like, Christian, what were you thinking? But I don't know. I like humans. I think there should be more of them. And I think, based on average people, I feel like I could be a better father than most people that I meet. So I think me in particular should be having more people. Those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's good. The other thing I'll say to end it on a slightly more upbeat thing is, as long as you have the attitude of like, we'll figure it out. That's what we did. So we had, when our daughter was born, there was a chance that she had a pretty bad heart problem. And then they basically said, just wait 6 months. And, usually kids grow out of it. And if they don't, then it's really severe, but usually they do. And so for 6 months, we were like, we'll figure it out, like if it really turns out to be really bad, we'll figure it out. And then it turned out to be totally fine. Like I guess when the heart grows, it grows like a webbing. And if it doesn't close all the way, then that's a really big problem because you're leaking blood between the valves. But babies like just grow a lot. And so most of the time it grows together. And so that's what happened. Now they said she's totally normal, but there's a chance that she wouldn't have been. But I think having the we'll figure it out like mentality is really good in those situations. So that's what I'll say. We'll figure it out.
That must have been so difficult for those 6 months. My gosh, to just be in that indeterminate state.
We basically had to forget about it. Like there's nothing. Yeah, there's absolutely nothing we could do. So just like just forget about it. And 6 months we have a follow up. So
it's a good life philosophy. Don't catastrophize. Don't. You'll get there when you get there. You don't have to have everything figured out right now. Just shrink your time scale until it feels manageable. Of like, all right, we're just gonna get through the next week, and if that's too overwhelming, like, all right, we'll just get through the next day or the next hour. Good. Seems like going through that experience would make you a better, more resilient person.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Cool.
Hopefully.
All right. I feel like we're upbeat now. Good. Chris, that's all I got.
That's all I got too.
then I'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.